What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Blazers Uprise Live here on a Monday, June 17th, 2024. A new NBA champion was crowned today. Well, I guess you could call it a new NBA champion because it's the team with the most banners now, Boston. The Boston Celtics hang their 18th banner today as they destroy the Dallas Mavericks. We're going to recap the playoffs a little bit. We're going to talk about if it was a good or a bad or just an interesting NBA postseason. We're also going to talk about how free agency is technically already started, but not really. We'll get into that in case you're confused. We're also going to talk about the Blazers offseason. We're going to touch again upon some goals as we've gone deep into the draft talk on the previous few streams. So today I want to kind of reconvene and talk about this Blazers upcoming offseason with the draft less than 10 days away. We're going to talk about the latest draft rumors, may even mess around with a mock draft depending on time, and that will be today's show. Also, internet should be better. Knock on wood, fingers crossed. I actually had a tech come out and fix the issue, hopefully.
Woohoo!
So hopefully it's no longer a problem right in time for 2 draft streams. Not one, we got 2 because it's a 2-day event. Eric, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good. I asked my boss. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to leave at noon on Thursday, so should be able to make both streams. And how's everyone in chat doing? Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. How are you, Tori?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm ready to hit the ground running today. Enjoyed the last game of basketball as best as I could. I wish it was a little closer. But now, Eric, it's baseball season. For real though, this is like the most I've enjoyed baseball, so I think I'll be okay with no football, no NBA. Normally as a Mariners fan, it's always miserable this time of year. After the draft and free agency for the NBA kind of dies down and all that going into July, August, but I'm enjoying baseball a lot recently, so I'm set for the rest of the summer. Of course, super excited for the rest of this month.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it doesn't get any better than the week or so between the day or two leading up to the draft and then leading into the first few days of free agency. So that's my most fun time of the year. Outside of maybe if there's a big trade or a trade deadline, or obviously if the Blazers were actually good and would win a playoff series or something that we could talk about, that might supersede that. But for now, that's all we have, right?
Yeah.
Is draft and free agency. And we're not going to sign anyone, so I guess all we have is the draft.
Yeah, we got the draft, and we got trades, hopefully. Hopefully. Last year we didn't have trades or free agency until the whole Dame thing panned out, and that was a trade we didn't want. And the draft was us hoping for a trade. So basically every transaction last offseason came with a lot of stress and worry. This year it's a lot of fun thinking about who we're going to draft. And then it'll be interesting to see who we trade, because we're not trying to be good. We're not trying to beat the Boston Celtics, luckily, anytime soon. Unfortunately, Eric, that pick we got in 2029, I was not confident that it would be good, and it's still 5 years away. But, man, the Celtics team looks set up to run the league the next couple of years. Now, we've had 6 different champions in the past 6 years, and the defending champ, I believe, hasn't made it past the second round in a few years as well. So we'll see if Boston can buck that trend, no pun intended, as we have a member message from Hyperprime, member for 31 months. He says, I believe in Dame. Bucks the champs 2025. Thank you, Hyperprime, for being a channel member. Yeah, we'll see if Dame
What's up, Hyperprime?
Can make a run next year. We'll see if Giannis can be healthy next year. We'll see if the Pacers, the young and up-and-coming Pacers, can take a step. We'll see the Knicks, if they're healthier, if they can hang with the Boston Celtics. And maybe Miami will make another Cinderella run. You can never count those guys out. Also, could Paul George in Philadelphia get them over the hump? The East is going to be interesting next year, but the Celtics win the finals tonight. Shout out to Joe Cronin for building a championship winner. This was probably the only way he could actually do it, Eric, but he did it.
The final piece was put into place when we gave them that top 55 protected second for Delano Band. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's definitely the trade that I'm talking about, man. That's definitely the trade that I'm talking about.
I can't remember any other trades we made with them.
Yeah, you know, I mean, shame on the Bucks for trading Drew Holiday to the Celtics. Like, why did the Bucks make them a contender? Who knows, right? But Drew Holiday, I mean, he's just a role player there, man. But he's like a perfect role player. They got so many like elite role players next to 2 stars, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown wins Finals MVP. Jason Tatum had a really good Game 5, had some big time buckets, and it's 2 wings. It's Jaylen Brown can play the 2 or the 3. Jason Tatum can play like 4 separate positions. He's been passing the ball well in this year's playoffs, and that was one of the reasons why I really liked him coming out of Duke, is I always thought he could be this type of player, dishing the ball like this at the highest level. Took him a few years to kind of ratchet up that playmaking, but, I mean, he made the right decisions when it mattered in this NBA Finals and led that team to their 18th banner. Derek White coming up with big plays. Peyton Pritchard loves half-court shots. I mean, my goodness, I was shocked, but I wasn't. I was more shocked that I wasn't shocked. Peyton Pritchard hits a half-court shot in this game, and it's funny because the announcer says he loves these shots before he takes a half-court pull-up, and he didn't even bank it. It was just straight pure. So, shout out to Portland's own, Westland's own, Peyton Pritchard. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, your thoughts on this championship win, Eric? Are the Celtics set up to run the league? How impressed were you with their championship?
Well, it was just an overall impressive season. I don't know how much we talked about it, but Crushables and I talked about it a lot on Hoops Crush, about how the Celtics, they had to get it done this year. There was no excuses. It was set up for them to do so. Pretty much all the teams, at least in the East, that you would have been scared of had some sort of question mark or injury or something going into the offseason, or into the postseason. And so it would have been, I think, a pretty bad failure if they did not win. Now, once they got to the finals, I had to play someone in the West. Maybe you could have made the argument, if it was a good series, that it wasn't like a failure or anything. But they took care of business, and they did something that they hadn't been able to do in recent years, despite several seasons being one of the best teams in the NBA. And so, yeah, you got to give them credit. And, a little bit of it's weird because they keep their main two guys together for several seasons for continuity, but then they make two like huge changes to their roster as well. So it's not like they just kept the same roster, but it's not like they like traded out their big names either. So
Yeah.
Just kind of a interesting way to build around something. They took a couple risks and paid off for them.
Yeah, Tatum and Brown were always good enough to be the top two on a championship-winning team, especially when your role players, I mean, Al Horford, veteran, super smart defender, like, can knock down threes, solid passer, right? Like, jack of all trades, big man, really good to have. You bring in a 7'3" unicorn who doesn't really fly anymore, but still he's 7'3" and can shoot and can put the ball on the floor a little bit, can protect the rim a little bit. You got Drew Holiday, one of the best two-way guards in the game. Derek White was phenomenal all season long. So it's just surrounding a duo that's good enough to win a championship with elite role players. And this playoffs felt like like a role players playoffs. We saw a bunch of role players have some really big moments, from Josh Hart with the Knicks to Jaden McDaniels with the Timberwolves, to Derek White with the Celtics. And some people look at him like a star because he's that good of a role player. I mean, he's blocking 7-footers. Very impressive stuff from the Celtics, man. And I just got to say, like, just to tie this into the Blazers, because I don't want to spend too long on the Celtics. Congrats to them. We've been talking about this finals the entire way. You said this is the year they had to get it done. And I think it's good for them to get their monkey on their back. But you're looking at this team. Jason Tatum's 26, Jaylen Brown's 27. They still got an extended window for the next 5 years plus. And with those two, they are always going to be good. Even if they don't have Al Horford, even if somebody's hurt, that team is going to be a playoff team. I am not confident in this 2029 first-round pick that Boston owes Portland in it being any good. I said that at the time the Blazers traded for it, but now that they won it all, like, I think these two are going to be in Boston for a long time to come. They're still going to be in their prime in 5 years. Jaylen Brown will be 32, Jason Tatum 31. Right? Like, they're still going to be stars at that point. So just to tie this back into the Drew Holiday trade that I teased earlier, no, it was not the Delano Band trade. The Blazers trade Drew Holiday there. He helps them win a championship. And ironically enough, the best asset that the Blazers got back, as I look at it right now, Eric, is the 14th pick in this draft. Mm-hmm. Because Malcolm Brogdon is not fetching you a lottery pick even in this draft. Robert Williams might have no trade value right now, and I don't think that Boston 2029 first-round pick is going to be any good. Which means the Blazers have to do something with this pick. The Blazers have to figure things out with this 14th pick in this upcoming draft. They have to find a gem. At the very least, they have to find somebody that can contribute to a winning team as a key role player. Because it's hard to see the Blazers getting a better asset out of this Drew Holiday trade, even though Drew Holiday won them a championship. I don't know. Just after seeing the Celtics win it all, Eric, that trade just looks even worse to me.
Yeah, I will say, though, like, even if they have Derek White under contract for another year, but let's just say they're able to keep him and Porzingis and Drew plays another couple years. Horford just turned 38, so at some point he's, not going to be there anymore. And then they have Porzingis, but his injury history, and he's not necessarily the greatest center. So I don't know how they're gonna fix their depth big man wise, other than just rotating minimum contract bigs because they'll be in the second apron most likely. So that's the only thing that kind of gives me pause on them going on a long run, is their big man depth might be an issue moving forward.
Let me just say this, though. Xavier Tillman came in what was it, game 3, hit a corner 3, had some big defensive stops. They don't need their bigs to do a whole lot. They need them to play defense and be able to finish a play, whether that's knocking down a 3, finishing at the rim.
Yeah, I'll probably sign a Daniel Tice again, or Mason Plumlee or something and be fine. But
And I mean, they have the 30th pick in this year's draft. Like, I wouldn't be shocked for them to draft somebody, who knows who's there at 30, but maybe they trade up a little bit, get Yves Missy if he falls into the 20s. Like, that's the type of moves I expect Brad Stevens in this organization to make to extend this window.
yeah,
They'll find a way. They found a way to get Drew Holiday. They found a way to get Kristaps Porzingis. They found a way to get Derek White. And when you look at teams like this, they find a way to get the right pieces to surround a duo like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. This time last year, we were talking about the Denver Nuggets surrounding the duo of Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray with guys like Aaron Gordon, guys like Bruce Brown, who unfortunately they had to let go. Now, you could say, oh, well, Bruce Brown walked. They weren't as good this year. They lost to the Timberwolves in the second round. Yeah, they definitely weren't, but they were still a very, very good team in the regular season, still a very late first-round pick. So, man, it feels weird, but this 14th pick might truly be the best asset that the Blazers get out of the Drew Holiday part of the trade. And I guess we're just sitting here hoping Milwaukee sucks in 5 years, because otherwise that Dame trade does not look good at all.
yeah. I still think the trade itself was okay. It's just sitting here with the assets not having done anything with Robert Williams or Malcolm Brogdon, I think, is still the issue for me.
Yeah, absolutely. But, when you got to have a plan, and we'll talk about that in a second when we get to the Blazers offseason, right? You got to have a plan.
You did mention something there with Tori that I want to bring up this show. You said that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are obviously now guys who can be the first and second best player on a team and win a championship, right?
Correct.
Yeah, but we were told by hundreds of people that
Hundreds, thousands, millions?
Jaylen Brown being added to the Blazers roster would not have made them very, very much better, and that we would have been, at best, a play-in team or fringe playoff team, even with adding Jaylen Brown. So I don't know how that's possible.
It was always crazy to me how after years of begging for the Blazers to build around Dame, how adding a guy who just won Finals MVP, right? Adding the next Finals MVP to the greatest Blazer ever is not good enough to even try it. Never understood that conversation last offseason. I mean,
well, the other thing was too, it's like, it's not like that's your only move you're going to make too. They still could have signed someone. They still could have made other trades. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So, that was a conversation last offseason. There were some whispers about Jaylen Brown being potentially gettable for Portland if they wanted to. That's a whole can of worms that we don't need to open because we've already closed that chapter. Just with the Celtics winning goal, it is intriguing to look back on the sequence of events that landed them Drew Holiday and that crucial top 55 protected second-round pick for Delano Banton. Anyway, Eric, today...
Is there cash considerations in that?
Was there cash? I mean, we love cash considerations here in Portland, so maybe that was the true difference maker. Shout out to the Celtics for winning the finals. Free agency officially started at 9 p.m. our time, 12 a.m. Eastern time. You guys might be confused, is this a free agency stream? Where's your free agency graphics? No, this is not a free agency stream. We're not going to be streaming for 8 hours and ending at 5 a.m. Pacific. As of right now, teams can negotiate with their own free agents. They cannot negotiate with other teams' free agents. This is a change under the new CBA. Normally, teams had to wait until June 30th, the start of free agency, to negotiate with their own free agents. That's the date when they can negotiate with any free agents, other teams' free agents, etc. But now, under the new CBA, you can negotiate with your own free agents a little bit early. So I would expect a few signings. I'm not sure how many because we've never seen this play out. This is brand new. But I would expect a few signings in the next couple of weeks. I don't know how fast-paced it'll be. I don't know who those players will be. I hope that it's not that many because I want a robust free agent pool. I don't want a bunch of names just re-signing and then we boot up the free agency stream and it's like, oh yeah, the best free agent is Daniel Tice, to bring up a name that you dropped earlier. Don't want that. So we'll see. Eric, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'd ever be that bad. But
hopefully not.
If there's one thing that was painfully obvious just doing a mock-off season where we had teams run through free agency and stuff like that, it is even worse now in the new CBA in terms of there's very few teams that can offer big contracts that have cap space. Those teams are going to probably try to act quickly. A team like Philly has to, because once they have to sign Maxey at some point, they won't have any cap space then. So if these players do not re-sign with their team, there's like a huge gap between players getting overpaid by their current team or getting paid what they deserve from their current team, and then having to possibly decide between minimum contracts and stuff like that for really good players, because there's going to be a lot of teams that can only offer minimum contracts or trying to stay under the apron so they're not going to spend too much money of their tax MLE or whatever. So there's going to be a lot of disparity between what a few chosen free agents sign with for teams with cap space and what the rest of the pool that doesn't re-sign with their own teams get. And it's going to seem like it's skewed very heavily towards re-signing with your own team.
Yeah, which kind of boring. I want chaos. I like chaos. Eric,
I mean, I
think our first free agent... No. Our first free agent stream, it started off with like Kyrie and KD to the Nets. The Golden State Warriors aren't going to be a freaking super duper team anymore. That was fun.
An earthquake? Was that there?
Yeah, I don't know. It was chaos. I want chaos. I want chaos across the league. We got chaos with our own team all the time. Why can't we enjoy it with someone else, you know?
I want to say the night Kawhi Leonard signed, it was when Zion, that was the earthquake during Zion's Summer League game or whatever.
Yeah, that was what the was that the off season before? No, it was
2019.
That was also 2019. Yeah, so that was when we got KD and Kyrie to the Nets, and then a few days later we get Paul George traded to the Clippers with Kawhi going there. Man, I want more of that, especially because we're not trying to win anymore. So we're not worried about super teams forming in the West, right? We're just worried about trying to form a competent team here in the Northwest. So we'll see how it plays out. I still think there's some intriguing storylines going into free agency, but this offseason, I think, is more about the draft, because you can get some really good and trades. We'll see what trades play out. I mean, for the Blazers, it is trades. But as we revisit this Blazers offseason coming up, the Blazers have to identify their future at least one front court position. Okay? And that's going to be with a draft pick. That's going to be potentially by actually clearing a spot by trading a player away. We've talked about the Dame trade a little bit in this episode, and the number one piece brought back in the Dame trade was DeAndre Ayton. Okay? And that trade was negotiated separately, so we can argue about whether that trade would have happened without Dame getting traded or this or that. But regardless, last offseason, the biggest trade piece brought in was DeAndre Ayton for the greatest Blazer ever. at the start of a rebuild. And now, less than 1 year later, we're already hearing rumors about the Blazers potentially wanting to trade up in this draft for Donovan Clingan to be their center of the future. And we can debate about whether Donovan Clingan is a great prospect or a good prospect or a mediocre prospect or whatever.
Or if we'd rather have him over Ayton.
Yeah, we can have all those debates, but this point is not dependent upon all those debates. If it's true that Portland wants Donovan Clingan in this draft, then that raises the question, the age-old question that we've always asked Eric, which is, what is their direction? What is their plan? Because the number one piece you got back in the Dame trade at the start of a rebuild was DeAndre Ayton, and he looked better the second half of the year. And now, if they truly want Clingan, then you're ready to move on from him already. So what was your plan bringing him in here? What was your long-term plan? What is their long-term plan? Is their long-term plan just like, oh, we're going to try and take the best prospect when he's there, and then if Ayton's, then we can move on from guys like Ayton and Jeremy Grant? Honestly, that's not a terrible plan in a rebuild because you are in a rebuild. It just makes me question why Ayton was such a great pickup in the Dame trade then. Of course, it depends on what he could be flipped for, but it's just interesting looking at mock drafts. Almost every mock draft has Donovan Clingan going number 7. A mock draft here or there will have him going number 1. There's actually legitimate buzz about Atlanta potentially taking him number 1. But a lot of mock drafts have Clingan going number 7. We've heard the Blazers rumors. So what is the future at the center position, Eric? I don't know. Now, if they go out and draft Matas Buzelis at 7 and then get T. John Salon at 14, well, you're drafting 2 power forwards. Okay, you still haven't really determined your future at power forward because if you draft Buzelis, you drafted Chris Murray in the first round last year, then you should probably trade Jeremy Grant. So it's going to take probably more than one move to establish a long-term plan at the small forward, power forward, or center position because it involves trading someone away and drafting someone. Do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, we both agree that that should be the case. We should probably look at trading both of them regardless of who we take in the draft. But yeah, absolutely. If we take a center, I think you have to move on from Ayton. The only thing I can think of is if they truly thought they could rehabilitate his reputation from... I mean, I don't know what would have given them. I guess they kind of did, right, with his play at the end of last season.
No, they didn't. He played for a tanking, terrible team and got to shoot 20 times a game.
But maybe you could make an argument that, like, another team would be like, oh, he just needed to get comfortable there, and look what happened once he started playing well and stuff.
I think that's foolish. I think that's foolish.
I know. I'm just saying, like, maybe, like, that's the only thing I can think of, right, is that they wanted to flip him like, you and I would like to do if we were the GM of a team. We'd just be constantly getting players to flip for extra value later, right? The problem you run into, real quick, the problem you run into with that thinking is making the assumption that other teams are going to value what players do for horrible tanking teams. They don't. Right.
They don't. Like, Colin Sexton was averaging 24 points per game as like a 21-year-old for Cleveland. Who cared? What'd they get back for him? They traded him to Utah. Like, I don't even remember what trade he was in. Nobody cares.
Donovan Mitchell.
Oh, yeah, it was Donovan Mitchell. He was a throw-in, though. Nobody viewed the Donovan Mitchell trade. Yeah, that's right. Because I was thinking, like, Laurie, because I know Laurie was in the, like, I don't know, was with the Bulls, and then there was a 3-team trade with the Cavs, and I don't know. And then he went to the Jazz. Those teams have done some business.
He was part of that trade, too.
Yeah. So, but nobody viewed the Donovan Mitchell trade as like, oh, that's a win for Utah because they got Colin Sexton. And why was that? Nobody cared that he averaged 24 points per game on a tanking Cleveland team when he was like 20, 21 years old. Or however much he averaged. Like, putting up stats on a bad team, on a tanking team like that, good teams don't go, oh, yeah, that player is now better in my eyes than when he was actually playing a key role on a championship contender in Phoenix. the downgrading situation, even if Ayton plays better, usually is not going to rehabilitate his trade value at all. So I think it's just a mistake to be in rebuild mode and think that about a player like Ayton. Now, if you can take somebody that doesn't play at all, give him some minutes, and then he blossoms and he blooms, and maybe he's 26, 27 and just needed a chance, and then you trade him, great. But a player like Ayton who's already on a max contract, you're not going to rehabilitate his trade value. And if you do, it's not going to be by much to make it worthwhile just for that to be the initial plan with him in the first place. So I don't like that.
Yeah. I guess it just depends on if they drafted Klingon and traded Ayton and got anything of value. I would say, hey, that worked out okay.
Yeah. And maybe they can.
Yeah, maybe they can. Maybe there's one dumb team like Charlotte or something that would, like it would only take one team, I guess. And really, I mean, you gave up Nurk and Nas and Keon in that deal. And I guess we could have taken Grayson Allen instead of moving him to Phoenix if we didn't get him. So I guess you have to include him. But it's like the bar's not very high for what you would have to get to have gotten better value than what you paid for him, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's all they were thinking was it didn't cost them a lot to get him. He played well enough, even if it wasn't a tanking situation, to maybe have some value to one team out there, and to get more than use of Nurkic. And I mean, it pains me to say this, but Nas, I mean, I think he's still an NBA player, but I don't know past when his contract is up. I mean, he's got a long way to go to like stick around the NBA long term. Keon, I don't think was in the NBA. I think he might have been on a two-way or something, or in the G League last year.
It's funny how fast things change in 2 years, huh?
Yeah, and Nurk is very I don't know what the right word is, but like there's very differentiating opinions on Nurk, most of them bad. Yeah, like I think they could move on from Ayton and do that, but I don't know. Like, do they think maybe Ayton could play power forward or something? Even though I think that would be a terrible idea. Like, do they want to try like a two tower lineup or something? Like, I don't know. What else could it be?
I don't know. That's why I'm so excited for this draft, is because we're going to get the answer of who we're taking with the 7th and 14th picks, but it's also going to raise questions no matter who we draft. There's going to be questions about players that are already on this roster now that we're bringing in new, fresh, young talent.
And then this will always come back to me. Okay, we heard, and I believe this is 100% factual. It's what I heard the entire year. It's what every Blazer media person reported. Jeremy Grant, they did not listen to offers for him. They would not. They had no interest in trading him. It just wasn't even a discussion. And so if you draft two power forwards, like you said, or even one power forward at 7, and that's your future, hopefully, and you end up exploring trades now for Jeremy, what were you thinking just a few months ago, 4 months ago, that made things so much drastically different now? Like, you couldn't foresee this coming. Yeah. And that goes back to your point about it then seeming like they're not sticking or having a plan. And that's my problem with Joe Cronin and this organization right now, is because it's painfully clear to me that they should maximize Jeremy's value at some point and move on from him. They should maximize the value of Malcolm Brogdon and move on from him. But then you hear that they didn't even bother trading him. And I think we could have gotten a decent amount for him. And we could have also gotten expiring contracts that would have cleared up our cap situation, and we would have been a team that possibly could have had some avenues to take advantage of some of these teams that are going to need to clear cap space this summer, instead of now also being in that same boat where we have to clear cap space. So, none of this stuff makes sense to me if they end up trading all these veterans now, because it's so much harder to trade and get cap space in the off season than it is during the regular season.
I think if they trade multiple vets, they'll be able to duck the tax.
I
don't want to use the word easily, but like if you do it in multiple trades, it is a lot easier. It is a lot easier. You don't need trade exceptions. You can just use matching rules to duck that amount of salary because you're using those matching rules on 2 trades instead of 1 where you're saving money. But go ahead.
Well, real quick, you do need the right teams that can take back more salary, because now with the rules, several teams are going to have to limit it to 100% instead of 125% or whatever.
Yeah,
and but several teams can't aggregate players either. So
very least, you got teams like Memphis has a trade exception big enough for Robert Williams or Matisse Thybulle, right? Yeah. There are some trade exceptions out there of that size that you can just lump a player in, and Thybulle, maybe you have to attach seconds to him, and then it's just funny how we trade 2 seconds for him, and then maybe trade 2 seconds to get off of him. And I'm sure a lot of fans that like Cronin would not like cap dumping Thybulle in that way, but also it would kind of prove your point. Okay, we would have had an easier time getting below the tax at the deadline. Now, devil's advocate regarding Jeremy Grant, you could say, well, they didn't want to trade him because they didn't know who they were going to draft this offseason, and now that they drafted their power forward of the future, now they're more okay with trading him. I guess that makes some sort of sense, but also if you're that easily moved off a guy like Jeremy Grant, you should at least listen to offers at the deadline. It shouldn't be such a drastic shift from we're not listening to any offers to, we drafted Matas Buzelis number 7. Okay, let's get rid of Jeremy now within the course of 4 months.
Mm-hmm. I'm just worried. This could be, a team like Dallas could possibly, I saw some things, someone posted on Twitter, isn't the most obvious trade, I think it was an OKC fan even, the most obvious trade this summer is Dallas to acquire Jeremy Grant for, he said, Hardaway, Kleba, and young prospects and whatever picks they have left. And so looking at their pick situation, they have 2025 first. They can trade now because after the draft, they don't owe another pick until 2027, so it frees up their 2025. And then they could trade a 2031 after the draft as well. So they could offer 2 firsts and some crappy contracts or crappy players. So that might be something you look at. If you could get 2 unprotected firsts or something for Jeremy, I would say that's pretty good value.
I don't think they're getting multiple unprotected firsts for. They couldn't even get multiple unprotected firsts for Drew Holiday.
Yeah, but
Boston couldn't trade another one, but they had other places they could have traded Drew Holiday to. I do not think any team is going to give up multiple unprotected firsts for Jeremy Grant.
They just gave up a top 2 protected first, I think it was, for PJ Washington. They haven't exactly been holding on to their picks a lot. I don't know. I'd be surprised if we got it too, but yeah.
I think that's closer value than 2 unprotected firsts for Jeremy. Jeremy's better than PJ Washington, but not by that much. I don't know. Jeremy can score, but doesn't do the little things anymore. He never was that great of a rebounder. Defense has fallen off a little bit. He'll go out there and get you a bucket. But Dallas, their 3rd leading scorer this season, he was banged up with injury, but they were barely playing him, and that was Tim Hardaway. I don't know. Jeremy would make a lot of sense there. He'd start there. He'd be their 3rd option behind Kyrie and Luka, but 2 unprotected picks. At the very least, I think one of them is going to be protected. I would guess both of them would be protected. But I would still do that trade if they're lightly protected. You get 2 first-round picks for Jeremy, you probably do it. That's the other thing of why they might have decided not to... I need to reword this, because if they were waiting until the offseason for teams' 2031 future first to open up, because a lot of teams that are in win-now mode or trying to win trade away a bunch of future firsts, so maybe at last year's deadline could only trade 1, but now this offseason can trade 2. If they were waiting for that, then that would make some sense, but it doesn't make sense to not listen during the season. Yeah. So we'll see. That also could have been posturing where they were willing to listen to offers on Jeremy Grant, but did not want teams to think they could get him easily, get him cheaply. So I don't really have a read on this offseason, Eric. And that's why I really wanted to talk about it, reconvene with 9 days until the draft. I really don't have a read on this offseason yet whatsoever, because it was pretty hard to get a read on them at last year's deadline. Everything we heard, they want to keep Jeremy Grant, but it didn't really make sense. They want to keep Malcolm Brogdon to be a mentor, even though he's not going to play the rest of the season. Okay, was it the injury? There's a lot of things that were question marks to me last season that now filter into the offseason. The Blazers have 2 lottery picks. So we're going to get answers. And that's the good thing. That's the fun thing. And it's not the answer okay, are they moving on from Dame or not? That's not fun. It's the answer of, are they moving on from Grant? That's a lot more fun to me. It's we've embraced the rebuild. I don't know the order of events in terms of how it will happen. If I had to guess, they'll draft first, and then if anyone gets traded, it would be after. Do you agree or disagree with that?
The only way I see it being different than that is if a team like Houston or someone in the draft, if they want someone like Jeremy or Malcolm, and that helps us move up in the draft or get an extra pick or something. I don't know. Yeah,
agreed. Anything else on this upcoming?
If we're able to pull off a 14 in Jeremy for 3 or something, then I think, I think that's pretty good. Because I think Houston's one of the teams that could take back a lot more than they bring.
Yeah.
Or could send out less than they bring in, and so we could probably duck the tax that way.
I'm just a little bit wary of Jeremy Grant's trade value on the open market.
Mm-hmm.
I think his trade value might not be high enough to get 3 for him in 14.
Yeah. If this is any other draft, I would say yes, but I don't know.
Part of it is his contract.
Mm-hmm.
His contract is not friendly. I don't think it's a negative contract or a bad contract, but I don't think it's a good contract. It's not. Teams aren't dying to pay Jeremy Grant $30+ million a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. And that's the other fascinating thing about this upcoming offseason. If he gets dealt, okay, what does his trade value ultimately look like? The problem is, Cronin has set a precedent with everyone except for Dame that he will trade you where you want to go.
And did he have a understanding with Jeremy, just like Jeremy had with Detroit, when he signed that extension here, that at some point that he would accommodate him?
Yeah, I would expect it. Drew Holiday didn't even play here. He was on the roster for 4 days, and Cronin's yep, we'll trade you where you want to go. Oh, you gave us a list of 5-6 teams? Okay, we'll trade you to one of these teams. Okay, here you go, Boston. You send us 2 injured players, a 14th pick in a mediocre draft, and your first 5 years from now when you're probably still contending for championships. And here, you get Drew Holiday. Go win a championship. You know what I mean? He didn't even play here. So I'd expect that to be the case with Jeremy Grant. I would expect that to be the case with Malcolm Brogdon. And there is something to be said about, okay, this is a front office that does right by their players. But ultimately, and my thinking has changed a little bit on this since the whole Dame saga. Ultimately, what free agents are going to sign here because we traded Drew Holiday and Malcolm Brogdon, Jeremy Grant, where they wanted to go?
We don't have money to sign anyone. We have
Exactly.
minimum contracts.
Like, nobody's paying attention to that. Even we didn't trade Dame where he initially wanted to go. Nobody's paying attention to that. I thought that would be like a bad look to guys that we kept here, but it's the business, right? Like, nobody's paying attention. Like, nobody's going to care about that 3 years from now. So I fully expect Cronin to do that, and I don't really understand the return on value. Because at some point, you can't just keep trading solid pieces where they want to go and getting back pennies on the dollar. All of a sudden, you're broke. Like, you get back a bunch of mediocre assets, you're going to get a bunch of mediocre players. You need true difference makers. If you're trading true difference makers for another team, you need to get back a true difference maker for yourself in the future. On a timeline that makes more sense for
or an asset that helps you get that difference maker.
100%. And teams, when they trade difference makers, they don't really care about mediocre players or mediocre assets, right? Because you're making a trade to try and make a difference either right now or in the future. In the Blazers case, it should be in the future. So that is something that I am wary about. And I mean, we saw Norman Powell get traded to a team he wanted to go to for nothing. For absolutely nothing. So,
we're still paying Eric Bledsoe, or not paying him, but it's still counting against our cap.
Yeah. Yep. So that is something that I would honestly expect if they get dealt. It's going to be like, okay, Jeremy, do you want to go somewhere so like we can say we're still friends after this trade? Oh, you want to go to Boston too? All right, we'll try and find a way. They're paying a large salary, but I mean they have their 2031 first, right, Eric? So I don't know. I mean, like, I'm slightly trolling with this, but to be honest, I fully expect that to be a thing if a trade happens this offseason.
Yeah, and for the record, any trades that go down with the Blazers, there's two things you should immediately look at. The first is how much money did the Blazers save? Because they still, if they, I mean, they could cut a few players, Banton, Tumani, or Jabari, but I don't know. I find
Jabari
it hard to. You think they're just going to cut him?
I don't know what's going to happen, but anyway.
But anyways, so with those three players and the 2 draft picks, they have 16 players under contract. So it's you look at the money, which is about $7 million minus whoever they cut from that. So how much money did it save us? And then how many roster spots did it cut off? If we trade like Jeremy for 3 players coming in, then all of a sudden we have like
it's not gonna happen. But
17, 19 players on roster, whatever. Like we're gonna have to like make more moves other than that. But like so, just look at how many players are going out versus coming in terms of roster spots as well.
Yeah, ultimately they'll cut some guys in that case. Who knows who? But offseason's gonna be interesting, man. It's almost here. I can't wait. Fix the internet. I'm ready for Draft Stream now. Building graphics for that. Let's get it. I am so
Hasn't
curious.
lagged once.
I know. I am so curious to see what happens with this team. Anyway, I'm also just very curious to see what happens with the NBA draft as well. Mm-hmm. Do you believe the Klingon #1 buzz?
I do. I think it's legit. Part of me thinks that Atlanta might try to get cute and pick up an additional asset and still get him by trading back, maybe with the Spurs or someone like that. And I'm starting to wonder if there is a legit way to somehow get Alex Sarr.
Yeah, I talked about in my last video. It'd be trading up to 3. He'd have to fall to 3.
Yeah, so Washington obviously is a wild card if Klingon goes 1. But I could also see the Spurs trading up and they're worried the Wizards are going to get something. The Wizards are probably fine, just like I think they need a lot of different things. So like I think they would be fine moving back a couple spots. And then the Spurs could take Ricochet at 2, and then all of a sudden Alex Sarr is still sitting there at 3 with a team that we possibly have talked to about trading up already, so we might know what it takes to move up. So I don't know if it's like, I mean, I don't think it's like more than like a 1% chance or whatever, but it's like, it has me fascinated that there's even a slight glimmer of a chance, because it really seemed early on in this process that Sarr was going to go 1. But now, I don't know. Between Ricochet or Klingon, I don't think Sarr is going to go 1 anymore.
Yeah, I think it's 50-50 right now. I mean, apparently Atlanta's not too impressed with him, though, so maybe it's greater than not that he doesn't go number 1. Klingon number 1, there's too much noise about Klingon. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen a prospect this talked about that, like, projected as a role player as much as Donovan Klingon before the draft. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. From teams trying to trade up for him, from him potentially going number 1, it's wild. It's wild.
It's like someone just like manufacturing value for him. Like,
I don't know. His agent is goated then. Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Well, you mentioned this though, how so many mock drafts. We have a guy in our group chat, Christian, who's really cool about posting like draft trends and all that kind of stuff. And he's been posting like who the most mock players to us. And it's still a lot of mock drafts have us going 7. But if you listen to the insiders or whatever, there's no chance if you listen to them talk about Donovan Klingon that he's going to go outside like the top 3 even, because like every single one that has inside intel on the draft says that Klingon is a top 3 pick. And so I find it hard to believe he's just going to fall to 7.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Other draft rumors. Now, let me thank a couple donations real quick. Isaac Figueroa, member for 11 months, says, can we draft Dalton Connect? Is he a good prospect? If the Blazers don't want to trade any of their vets, Dalton Connect would be the guy to pick to come off the bench for 28 minutes a game behind Tamani Kamara at the small forward spot. Or behind Shaden Sharp or he can come off the bench at a guard and Shaden Sharp can be full-time small forward. I mean, who knows? Who knows? But Dalton Connect is the guy to draft if you don't want to shake it up if you're Portland and you just want to try and play for a play-in next year. I do think he'd be a good fit, but I think that's also the player that would require the least amount of trades to follow it up and make it make sense. Shout out to Carter.
Yeah, he is a ready-to-go player. Could help us immediately if that's what you're hoping for. Also, Isaac, if you want a little bit more detailed breakdown, there was one with him in the thumbnail, a stream. It was after he worked out for us, and we talked about him in depth. And then also the last couple of streams since then, we've talked a lot about Dalton Connect, and Tori and I have discussed that thoroughly. So if you missed those shows, I suggest going back if you want a little deeper dive into what we think about Connect.
Yep. And then Carter Dick, $2 donation, says, just for letting me think about Sarr at 3. Eric will get you dreaming, man, and then I'll try and bring you back down to earth a little bit.
I don't even know if we'd want Sarr. Like, would we be
Could
happy
you imagine if we
scenario?
traded up for 3 and then we took we didn't take Sarr? Like, imagine we take Castle. Like, I wouldn't be too pissed off because I really like Castle, but I can just imagine your reaction.
No. You know what would be funny is if they have a trade lined up with Houston, if Klingon falls to 3, but Sarr falls to 3 instead, and they'd say they don't want to move up. It was only dependent on Klingon.
I mean, that'd just be ludicrous to keep a vet instead of taking a chance on him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then shout out to John Smith, $2 donation, says, why are y'all so anti-Klingon? Great with Scoot Flag. Or it says Scott Flag. I think that means Scoot Flag. Well, I mean, we don't have Cooper Flag. Also, Klingon ain't worth the number 1 pick. He's nowhere close to being worth the number 1 pick. He's a role-playing big man who has question marks about being able to play any defensive scheme other than drop, had foot injury issues in college, isn't the greatest finisher, and offensively, his most easily projectable role is as a play finisher. So, how's that worth a number one pick? It's not. It's absolutely not.
And Scoot was downright terrible at getting through screens last year, much like every Blazer is for some reason. And so running primarily drop scheme with Scoot and Klingon getting spammed into pick and rolls, I don't know how well that would work out. I like Klingon for a team like Memphis or OKC or a team that's looking to... I kind of get it for Atlanta if they're trying to win instead of be smart and take the best player. But I don't think Klingon... I think you know what he is. He doesn't have a ton of upside, in my opinion. He's going to be a good rim protector, and he's smart enough offensively to play in most schemes and be a good connector, maybe. Not like he's not going to be like a Jokic creating passes, but he can make good reads out of certain sets and knows where to move the ball and things like that. But I don't think he has much potential outside of that. And so I just think you're kind of limiting your team if you take players like that. And then on top of that, we already have DeAndre Ayton, who we've invested a ton in and all that kind of stuff. So it just doesn't jive with any sort of plan if that's who we take or who we trade up to get, especially.
Yep. Other draft rumors. Rick Carlisle says Bronny's going to go earlier than the 50th pick, which was interesting. Apparently, the San Antonio Spurs really like Devin Carter. Maybe he's in play at number 8 for them if they don't take Stephon Castle number 4, which I think is the favorite for him. Tyler Kolek is a name that has some buzz with Phoenix at 22, and that makes sense. They need a point guard, and he's an older point guard that can knock down the three and run an offense. So if you're going to take like an NBA ready point guard that can come in and just like play off the ball a little bit, set up some offense and not make too many mistakes, Tyler Kolek would probably be the top name available at that pick for that. If it was a rebuilding team, I would hate that pick, but with it being Phoenix, I understand it. Any other draft rumors that you want to touch upon, Eric?
Well, first of all, I like Devin Carter for San Antonio a lot. I like him for a lot of teams in that range, actually.
My question for him is he the next Davion Mitchell in terms of a guy whose shooting took a jump in his final year, but he's not really a shooter like that?
Yeah, but I feel like he shoots. I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but like he shoots different types of shots than Davion took, I think.
I mean, Davion was a 3-level scorer at Baylor.
Yeah, he was. Carter took some deep threes though, and like he was shooting some Dame type threes.
Yeah, he kind of had to. Bryce Hopkins went down, who was their guy offensively, so he had to take a load like as a role player, without the ultimate green light. I don't know. It's interesting to think about it in regards to like Davion Mitchell, because Davion Mitchell is kind of the same archetype.
What if they took like Reed Shepherd and Devin Carter, and that was their backcourt of the future?
Very small, but I mean, you got a 7'4" alien back there, right. So he can probably make anything work. And
I'm not a huge Tyler Kolek guy, but I do think that would be a good pickup for the Suns. I think he would fit what they need very well. And if I'm the Suns, I'm either just saying screw it and taking a chance and taking Bronny and hope that you get LeBron and just go all in on that strategy, or I'm I'm taking a point guard or a center there. I think it would be kind of a waste to take a wing, considering their roster. So I think Kolek would be good, assuming, if like an Isaiah Collier or someone like that is still on the board, I don't know if you can pass up on his upside for a guy like Kolek. But yeah, I'd definitely look at a point guard if I was them.
Yeah, Phoenix has to turn that asset into something that helps them win right now.
Yeah,
they can't play any sort of future game. Even if there's a prospect that has a lot more upside, if he's not going to contribute to them winning in the next couple of years, like they almost can't consider that because they put all their eggs in this basket. They pick their direction, which is to try and win a ring. That's why you got KD there. That's why you got Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. You got that big three. They just unfortunately don't have enough around them. So they're ultimately going to have to try and figure out and fill the holes around those guys in order to actually make it worth getting Kevin Durant in the first place. Because otherwise it was never worth trading for him.
Yep.
Anyway, those are latest draft rumors. And
there was one other intriguing rumor.
What else?
This is stupid, Tori.
What did I miss?
I wanted to punch my computer when I read this. There is rumors that this year's Cam Whitmore will be Rob Dillingham.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I also saw that.
He's apparently a guy that some experts are predicting will fall possibly out of the lottery, Tori. In which case, he would go to either the Orlando Magic or the Miami Heat in the mid to late teens, and that would be sick for the rest of the league if they let him fall that far and one of those two teams get him.
I could see Philly taking him.
17, I think? Or no,
Philly's at 16.
16?
The Lakers are at 17. I could see the Lakers taking him too. Here's the thing. If he falls past 8, I kind of feel like that's possible, Eric.
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
Because just hear me out. At 9, Memphis, they have Ja. At 10, Utah, like Keontae George is their point guard. I guess he can move to shooting guard, but there may be fit questions there. And Topic might still be on the board. It might be a better fit there, right? Like, because Topic might slip too. Okay, Chicago at 11. Supposedly they still want to make the playoffs, and that's like an ownership mandate. So they're going to resign DeMar DeRozan. They got some, guards, Kobe White, Alex Caruso. So I can see them passing on him. 12 is OKC. They got Casey Wallace they drafted last year. They got SGA. They got Isaiah Joe as a shooter off the bench. I could see them passing on him. Sacramento at 13. They got De'Aaron Fox, and then Portland at 14. Like, we have 3 young guards.
So, this could be why a lot of teams are trying to move up in this draft because they know that situation and they could foresee a guy like that being there still available. But I am going to say this right now. I know it doesn't make sense at 7, but if Rob Dillingham is on the board, or Topic, or Holland, or Cody Williams, if one of those guys falls to 14, you cannot pass up on a top-level talent in this draft because you have a player at that position if you can get him at 14. Like I said, I understand at 7, but in my opinion, if Rob Dillingham is on the board at 14, you just take him. And you figure it out later. You try to trade someone.
Chad, do you agree with that or do you disagree with that as far as Eric goes? I don't know if I agree because while it doesn't make sense to draft for fit if you're in Portland's situation, it does make sense to draft the players that you can best develop. Mm-hmm. I just don't know. And you've had this question. We've been on the other sides of this discussion in the past too.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say it so vehemently because there is question marks of how they make that work and if they could actually even develop a guy like Rob Dillingham.
Yeah.
Like, I think you trade out, you find a team that values him and trade out of that pick if a team values him enough. Or, I mean, if there's a Khalil Ware there, like, I could understand them taking a chance on Khalil Ware's upside over Rob Dillingham's. And the day Khalil Ware might be better.
What if he cooks in Summer League and then you have a huge trade asset?
Who?
Rob.
Who's trading for players because of Summer League?
I don't know.
We should have traded Jared Bayless after Summer League.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, but like this. See, to me, that would scream passing on Donovan Mitchell because we have Dame and CJ, and I don't know.
Passing on who because we have Dame and CJ?
Donovan Mitchell.
I mean, he would have been a third guard.
We're
talking about a fourth guard.
Yeah.
And I don't think Rob Dillingham is a Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he should fall out of the lottery. I don't think he will fall out of the lottery. But he's going to be the guy, if he falls past 8, that people are going to start paying attention to. Like, man, what team is actually going to take him? Because you got a lot of teams with point guards. Same thing with Topic. Although Topic makes a little more sense for some certain situations because he's bigger.
Mm-hmm. If I had to put my money on, I mean, obviously it'd probably be Alex Sarr, but if I had to pick one other player in this draft, I had to choose one to be a star, it would be Rob Dillingham. And to me, we've talked about the need of trying to find stars, and I get all the other stuff that comes along with it. It's just like, can you imagine if we don't take him and he goes on to become a star, like,
yeah, I can imagine that.
And then Scoot, is just kind of above average point guard or whatever, like,
you and your detailed hypotheticals.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, as a Blazer fan, that's like what I'm expecting if we pass on something,
Yeah, but I mean, we can't make decisions because we're scared of.
Oh, I know. That's what we did last year.
Exactly. Exactly. So ultimately, it's like, do you have enough resources in house? Because here's the thing: if he goes somewhere else and becomes a star in like Miami, that doesn't mean that he would have become a star in Portland, dealing with 3 other young guards, compared to going to a team like Miami who needs his skill set and is really good at developing players. Could be 2 wildly different outcomes. Like, I think that's something that goes underrated, is where you end up matters in the grand scheme of things in terms of how good of a player you become. Because there's certain situations that are better for cultivating that. So, I don't know. If he's there at 14, like, I'd be cool with taking him for sure. But then, I mean, can he play next to Scoot?
I don't know if him and Scoot can play together, man.
Yeah, you're going to have to decide between one of them long term. It's just... It's going to create some awkwardness, which, some chaos is always fun, right? Like, Summer League would be interesting. I just think when you're talking about 7, I understand you can't put the team in that position. But if you have a chance, and I don't even know what the Blazers think of Rob Dillingham as a prospect or whatever. Maybe they don't have him rated as a lottery pick either. But if he's like in your regular board, like 4th or 5th or something, and he's there at 14, I don't understand how you can just justify passing on him. I think you. I mean, I know how you could justify passing on him.
Yeah,
kind of just did, but I do think someone's gonna fall. I do think there's gonna be somebody at 14 we maybe didn't expect. It might be Ron Holland. It might be Matas Buzelis. It might be Rob Dillingham. It might be Topic.
So if Topic is do you have the same problem, or because he's bigger? At least Dillingham could shoot.
Yeah, I mean, Topic can't shoot and can't defend. He needs the ball in his hands more than Dillingham. And his size doesn't really, I don't think, helps him out defensively. He has a negative wingspan. I'd rather have Dillingham than Topic. But who knows? I still think there's a chance Buzelis might fall out of the top 10 as well. Most mock drafts don't agree with that. Anyway.
And for the record, I'm not hoping the Blazers draft Dillingham or Topic, but there's a difference between that and when you're sitting there and it's not a top 10 pick and you have the value of a player that, like Topic, who, before he got hurt, was possibly going to go number one. To me, that's how you maximize value in the draft, and it could backfire. It might not pan out. Might be hard to develop him, but I just think you take chances like that in those situations, especially since we should have already gotten a better player at 7 and can afford to maybe take a chance there.
Yep. Real quick, let's take a look at mock draft boards. So you shouted him out, Christian. He puts together a spreadsheet. I can actually share the link to the spreadsheet in the live chat, just for those of you that are here. I'll share a view link. Actually, that'll change all the permissions on it, so I'm not going to mess with that right now. But I will show it. This is a consensus board. Oh my goodness. We got chaos. This is a consensus board. And let me know if it's big enough. If I have to make it bigger, let me know. Pause. But these are where players are ranked. This takes into account ESPN Mock Draft, ESPN Big Board, BR Mock Draft, Athletic Mock Draft, Ringer Mock Draft, Ringer Big Board, Yahoo Mock Draft, NBA Draft.net, which is just chaos, but it seems like they've actually come around to making some sort of sense. Although they have Dillingham 22 and 24 on their board and draft. No ceilings, CBS. I wish there was a way to only include mock drafts in this. I'll talk to Christian, but clinging on a lot of mock drafts, ESPN, Bleacher Report, Athletic, Ringer, CBS, Tankathon as well. All going 7 to Portland. All the numbers in green are Portland picks. At 14, pretty wide consensus. You got Salon, you got Athletic, you got Salon, you got McCain, you got Da Silva, you got another McCain, you got 2 picks of Keyshawn George, which is interesting. And you do have another Tristan Da Silva. So 2 for Da Silva, 2 for George, 2 for McCain, 1 for Salon on these mock drafts. And then you also got 2 for Cody Williams if he falls to 14. That might be the other guy who falls to 14, or it could be Cody Williams.
Yeah, or go top 5, I guess.
Or go top 5. Ringer has him top 5. Bleacher Report has him top 5. His draft range is very wide.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how there's so much clinging at 7, but I just don't think he's going to be there, so who knows? And then 14 is just all over the place.
See, I get McCain for shooting, but would you want McCain or Topic or Dillingham?
I do wonder if McCain has a legitimate chance of being better than Dillingham. I have Dillingham higher, just because the shot making he showed in college was absurd. Just some of the shots he hit off the dribble, he's a sniper, but McCain can shoot as well, and I wonder if he was held back in terms of what he was allowed to do as a ball handler playmaker. Because he can certainly shoot.
I don't know. I mean, Kentucky had a lot of ball handling guards too. And Dillingham still showed a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, McCain still showed some stuff a little bit as well. With Kentucky, it was, other than Antonio Reeves, it was freshmen, right? So it wasn't anybody that had any seniority. With Duke, you had Tyrese Proctor there. Filipowski even handled some. Those were sophomores.
Roach.
Jeremy Roach as well, yeah. So you had some older guys where Jared McCain
Foster.
Yeah, Caleb Foster, freshman. But like Jared McCain was more coming in to fit in, where Rob Dillingham was with a bunch of freshmen other than Antonio Reeves, who was just kind of like a scorer anyway, not really a playmaker. So any names that you're surprised as to like where their stock is according to this sheet, Eric? Or guys that you think is too low? I'll just say this. Jalen Tyson at 27 is criminal.
Yeah. We talked about it earlier. I don't see how Clingan falls to 7 with how much buzz he has. So that's the biggest thing that stands out to me. But yeah. I mean, De Silva keeps creeping up a lot of boards. I mean, he could go as high as like, I mean, could Memphis even take him at 9? Like, I don't know. It might depend on his Memphis maybe at 9.
Taking who?
De Silva.
Yeah, it's possible. De Silva has upside into the lottery.
Yeah.
It's the type of player that teams like.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of De Silva, Carrington, Edey goes lottery. They're all different players, but I think like you're gonna have a player like that go in the lottery.
Yeah.
Like in this range, Kalel Ware as well. You're gonna have one of these guys jump. I think Devin Carter goes up there. Like I think there's a legitimate chance that like, just think about this: Blazers drafting at 14, right? If Devin Carter gets taken before the Blazers pick, and one of those players I mentioned, you know, Bub Carrington, Kalel Ware, Zach Edey, Tristan Silva also gets taken before 14, the Blazers are going to have one of the following players on the board: Dalton Knecht, Cody Williams, Ron Holland, Rob Dillingham, Nikola Topic, T. John Salon. And I think at this point, there's a lot of noise about Devin Carter going before the Blazers pick. So if somebody else down here goes before as well, you're going to get one of these guys on the board at 14. Falling into your lap.
A choice of 2 of them.
So somebody's going to fall, Eric, like Holland. Cody Williams is who I'm hoping is there. Salon as well, if he's there.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be Dillingham, it could be Topic. Because Topic's stock with the latest injury, the measurements, has completely fallen. He's 11th. We were talking about him as like a top 3 pick earlier in the year. He's 11th now, so who knows?
All those ones for Ricochet too.
And then you got your boy. We need to put a column with a 4 in it for Chomchi. See what that raises him to.
Well,
our guy Mogbo, 2nd round. We have him first.
I know this doesn't mean much because it's all people's mocks, so this isn't actually what's going to happen
in here. But yeah.
But I mean, a lot of these people are a little behind. Like I think there's some players moving up that maybe haven't quite snuck up on some of these boards yet.
Yeah.
Or they're kind of, even though they're moving up in real life, whoever's running that particular mock or big board doesn't necessarily agree with that person. So the thing I keep seeing every time I play out a mock draft that's not between you and me, or like see it, like you see those Twitter ones where like different people represent each team and do a draft. Our guy Cheem just did one of those the other day where he was the Blazers. Every one of those, there's some combination of Gaudiet, Chomchi, Mogbo, Jerusik, like guys I really like that look like they might, at least one or two of those guys might be available at 34 and possibly even 40. And if we can
Yeah.
get guys like that with our second round picks, man, I'd be really stoked.
Yeah, I need to watch more on Jurisic. None of the mocks, big boards have him as a first round prospect, which is interesting. I just feel like I haven't watched enough of him to like confidently keep him where I have him slotted right now, which is like late teens. So that's a guy.
14.
Yeah, I just feel like it's one of those guys where it's like, oh, the little bit of flashes are nice, but it's not enough substance to like rank him that high yet. As far as like what I've seen, I don't know how much tape you've watched on him, but
I mean, he had a really good year.
yeah, yeah, for sure. He's a little bit older though, correct? He could have entered a previous draft. Let me look up his age. He's 20, turns 21 next year. Okay. Yeah, last year's draft he could have entered, didn't. Shout out Embarking Box member for 13 months. Great news. My move is happening 4th of July weekend. Oh, hopefully your move goes well. Thank you for being a channel member, Box. Good luck with your move. Yeah, Jurisic, I think, has a great chance of being there. I think Dottiet still has a chance. He kept his name in the draft. I think just ultimately he goes first round. There's also a chance Tyler Smith is there. I have a feeling like the Blazers are going to draft Klintman there. I don't know why. Gut feeling right now. Put a stamp on it. If they drafted 34 and Klintman's there, that's who they're taking.
Why did you have to do that to me?
What? I'm giving you time to prepare. And then Klintman's going to be a stud. Watch.
Okay, if you say so.
I have Klintman at like 41 on my board.
If we pass up on like all those guys I just mentioned, they're all on the board, and I'm just like stoked, and we end up with like Tyler Smith and Bobby Klintman at 34 and 40, I'm gonna be.
Oh, you're gonna be what? Not surprised? Because I wouldn't be.
I would not be surprised.
Just prepare. Just prepare. I'm preparing. I'm preparing the chat. Right, Klintman 34 if he's there. They're gonna like his size and guard skills. Doesn't really have guard skills, but that's what they're gonna say. Just give me Jalen Tyson, please. I'm just begging this team to end up with Jalen Tyson. I'm begging Jalen Tyson to fall to 34. You guys will see me praise Joe Cronin for the first time ever. If Dottie's there, taking him. Tyson's there, taking him. Holmes there, I'm taking him. Now, if they're all there, I don't know. But those three, Holmes is going first round, though, so I take him out. But, like, Tyson might be there, Dottie might be there. I'm taking those guys. Jurisic might be there. That's interesting. Mogbo might be there. That's interesting. Those are, like, the four guys I'm hoping for at 34 that have a chance of falling to there.
We're going to take Ryan Dunn, though.
Honestly, I would not hate Ryan Dunn at 34 either.
I already can see the press conference. Not that that's like terrible, just like, oh, we've needed a guy with his defensive prowess for years. This is the guy we've been needing in Chauncey's system.
Just acting like they do not know that he cannot shoot or that it does not matter. I mean, that's the problem with the Blazers. It seems is like they identify somebody like, oh, this trait is really, really good, and we want that trait, so we're going to go get it, without taking into account every other trait they have that could be a negative, right? Like, Matisse Thybulle plays defense, let's get Matisse Thybulle. Without taking into account, oh, he gambles for his steals, oh, he gets blown by a little too much, isn't really like that point of attack stopper, like, overplays, gets back cut, and then offensively, like, doesn't do anything. No, but he was all defense one time and plays defense, so we need defense. We're going to go get Matisse Thybulle, and then we're going to match his contract. Like, it's just very simplistic, it feels like. So Ryan Dunn, I could see being the pick at 34, which I wouldn't hate because ultimately, like, if you can somehow teach him how to shoot, then all of a sudden he's an elite role player on a contending team. But it's such a big if that I would not like him before 34.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, it's upside if you can teach him how to shoot. It's a lot of upside if you can teach him how to shoot, which is tough to get in that part of the draft. And apparently he did shoot better before his college years. Or was he just a one-year college guy? Right?
No, he was multiple years.
Is he multiple years? Yeah. Apparently he was a better shooter in high school. I don't really know what happened. I mean, his form doesn't look terrible. I think there's a small chance you can teach him to become an average shooter. You know, Derek Jones Jr. But he'd be better than Derek Jones Jr. because he's an even better defender. Like elite. Projects as like elite, potentially all defensive team type guy. So I'd take a chance on that, Eric, at 34.
All right, Tori. Tyson Dodiet on the board at 34. We take Adem Bona, and both are gone by 40. What is your reaction?
I mean, you already know my reaction. Like, I kind of like Bona. I would not hate Bona if those guys were off the board, and we didn't take a center at 7 or 14. But if those guys are on the board, I'm pissed if we're passing on them for Adem Bona. I mean, if Tyson is on the board, Eric, I'm pissed if we're passing on him for anybody.
Anybody, yeah. Because, I mean, you take him at 14, right? So
yeah. Yeah. He should be in play at 14. It's just, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Do not understand. Like, he started to climb up into the teens, and all of a sudden he's back down here. I don't get it. So, like, how, in what world is Johnny Furphy a better prospect than him?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't even know if Furphy's a better shooter than him. And that's like the only thing Furphy is even close to having over him. I guess size, but like he doesn't have a great wingspan. And Furphy's going to be a 3. Tyson's going to be a 2-3. Like, I don't really care about Furphy's size. I just don't understand why Furphy's a better prospect. Doesn't make sense to me. I'd rather have the guy that can pass much better, shoot much better, handle the ball much better, has some shiftiness, has some athleticism with his life bounce. That's not just like straight line athleticism. That's just me, though. That's just me. Anyway. I'll try and get a view link and tweet it out or something on Twitter. You can follow us. Links in description. Anything else, Eric?
What do you think my celebration will be like if we draft Ulrich Chomsky? At like 40?
I don't know. Just make it good enough so that I can play it when we cut him in 2 years. What would be your reaction? I don't know, dude. Because you reacted pretty hype for Jabari, but I know it would be more hype than that.
Yeah. I'm going to be so sad when he goes like 28.
The next Cabin Gale. It's going to be super fascinating to look back on him and see if you were right or not. I've never seen you have a ride or die like this strongly before. Like, you were putting it all out there. You're going to look like the biggest genius, or you're going to look like me when I had Kira Lewis Jr. in my top 3 or 4 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Who's 33rd? Who's picking 33rd?
Charlotte, isn't it? Or no,
No, not Charlotte.
It's Milwaukee, right?
Milwaukee, there you go. Well, they wouldn't draft him. At least he's not going to go the pick before.
They could think he's the next Giannis.
I think I'm the next Giannis then. Anyway. Chat, you have any questions before we wrap up the stream? Let us know. Who do you guys got taking Bronny. I don't know. I assume Lakers at the end of the second round, but Rick Carlisle said otherwise, so I don't know.
Rick Carlisle?
Yeah, you didn't hear that? You didn't hear that?
I
Was it
heard
Rick
what
Carlisle?
the Pacers coach?
Yeah.
Oh,
Rick
yeah,
Carlisle
sorry.
says Bronny James will definitely go higher than number 50 in the draft. I'm not going to say
Oh.
who. I don't want to get fined, was his quote.
Oh, right. That's. I thought you were confusing it with Rick Bucher or something. Remember that guy?
Yeah. No, Rick Carlisle. Where is Bronny on this? Bronny is 56. Which I think, the Lakers pick is 55? There was also buzz that, like, Enrique Freeman might end up getting drafted in the first round. I don't know if you saw that report. I don't even remember where it's from. Have you watched any Enrique Freeman? Enrique, however you say his name? You don't know who I'm talking about?
No, I haven't. I kind of dismissed him early on in the process. Maybe I should go look at him again.
I mean, he played at Akron for 5 years, so I don't blame you, but shot.
It's too old.
He's 6'7". He's like Ryan Dunn mid-major version? I don't know. 13 rebounds a game, 18.6 points a game. Shot 37% from 3, but on 1.5 attempts a game last year. Better than Ryan Dunn, though, shooting-wise. I don't know. I need to watch tape on him. He played at the Combine, that's all I know.
Yeah.
But, anyway. Anything else, Eric? For this
No, that's it. So next stream will be Thursday. Then it'll be less than a week till the draft. We'll, of course, be live both Wednesday and Thursday, June 26th and 27th, for all your draft coverage that you've come to expect from Tori and I. As those of you that watch the channel know, we try to do as much research on all these guys as possible and try to give you the best coverage out there. So hope to see you all on those streams. Should be a lot of fun.
Yep, looking forward to it. I'll probably try and do a Tuesday night draft preview stream. I'd like to do a stream the night before the draft and the night before free agency. So we might be streaming a little bit more than usual. So just check out our Twitter. We tweet out stuff regarding our schedule. There's a Blazers Uprise Twitter as well. So we'll let you know. I'm also going to try and sit down one of these days before the draft with Steven and record something. And then record something after with him. Because I've been itching to hear what Steven thinks about some of these prospects. So anyway. Appreciate
Gotta
you
have something other than Hoops Crush on the second channel.
I know. I mean, we've been trying with the 503 stuff for a year now, but we've been trying. I would love to get them going, but Scorching Trails might get another one here soon. I actually texted him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm coming back for a one-off in my rec league because my dad's retiring from rec league, so I said I'd come back and play a game." Said he dropped 28, so I guess he still has it, but he can't beat me one-on-one. Anyway. How's Rich doing, by the way? Or is Rich good?
Yeah, he's doing okay.
Haven't seen Rich in here in a minute, so.
Well, he was in here for a minute earlier.
I must have missed him. I always seem to miss him, I guess. I'm just used to him. Oh, yeah. Hey, gang, just came on to say hello to everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. Good to see Rich, as always.
Yeah, he's got a lot of long-term injuries and stuff, so just dealing with that.
Yeah. For sure. Well, going to record some stuff this week. Dropped a video, trade destinations for 3 Blazers players. You can check that out. You can check out my last mock draft. We'll have another one of those before, and we'll have to do that on a stream. Maybe we'll just do it Thursday because no more finals talk. Maybe we can just dedicate a whole stream to a mock draft. But Tuesday night before draft night, we'll be talking about all draft stuff, nothing else. And I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Live again on Thursday. Hopefully we can catch you then. Hopefully we have more juicy rumors to talk about regarding different draft prospects. I'm going to dive into more film on multiple guys, just little bits of stuff here or there, especially guys that I'm not fully confident in my opinion on yet, and we can talk about it on Thursday. Anyway, this has been Blazers Uprise Live. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you next time, and until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers!